Hey, John, did you want me to introduce you?
Yeah, after we get started.
Okay.
Welcome to the San Gorgonio chapter Trail Talk series. My name is John St. Clair, and I'm the Zoom host of this Trail Talk series. And a couple things I need to go over. First of all, um, everybody should be muted except for the speaker. And if you have questions, please write them in the chat section. There's a little talking bubble down at the bottom of the screen. You click on that and send it to everyone. That's the default. And we will eventually answer all your questions. Um, and so at this point, um, I'm going to introduce, let's see, where is it? Oh my goodness. Well, that's weird. I want to change the spotlight, but it's not letting me do that. Let me, here we go. I want to introduce Carla Kellums, who is one of the members of the Trail Talk Committee, and Carla will introduce me.
Thank you, John. Yeah, so I want to go ahead and introduce John Sinclair. He's been a Sierra Club Outings leader since 2011, and he's the Los Serranos Group Outing Chair since 2012. He's been very involved as an instructor in the San Gorgonio Chapter Leadership Training course since 2013, and is currently the Chapter Leadership Training Course Committee Chair. Um, so John is also a member of the Los Serranos Executive Committee and the Chapter Trail Talk Committee, like myself and Julianne Anderson. And he also serves as our Zoom host. So I want to go ahead and introduce and thank John for everything he's done um, being the Zoom host. And his presentation tonight will be really exciting because it's on the Eastern Sierra Mule Pack trip that he went on. So thank you, John. Take it away.
Okay, so I'm going to click the share button and hit play. And hopefully everybody can see that. So, if you can't see the screen that says Eastern Sierra Mule Pack Trips, wave your hands or something. But I'm assuming you can see the screen I'm seeing. And
Yes, I can see it.
okay, good. So, I have gone on mule pack trips to the Eastern Sierras, and I should say Southeastern Sierras, for 9 years in a row, every August for the last 9 years. And seven of those times have been to the same place, the Big Pine Lakes region, and that's the one that I'm going to talk about most. But I'm going to start off by, in general, talking about mule pack trips and why they're so great. So, mule packs are great opportunities for all lovers of the outdoors, especially people who actively backpack and appreciate an occasional opportunity to be free of the weight, couples who enjoy the outdoors, but one of them does not backpack, folks who have left their backpacking days behind, people who want to enjoy the beauty of the Sierras and relative comfort, peak baggers when there is a nearby peak close to the base camp, fishing enthusiasts, photographers, and wildflower fans. So this is a screenshot of the Angeles chapter mule pack section. The San Gorgonio chapter does not have a mule pack section, but Angeles chapter does, and they do anywhere from 2 to 7 mule pack trips per summer in July, August, and September. So it's a short season for doing this because the mule pack trips go to high elevations and you have to wait for the snow to melt, and you can't do it too late in the summer or you might get snowed on. And certainly in the autumn, you have a good chance of getting snowed on. So this is what the Mule Pack section webpage looks like. The address is down at the bottom. There's also another address which will be on the last slide. So the reservation policy, basically, this is another screenshot, which I took just the other day, but it's information about 2025. They do not have the information about 2026 yet. It will be up by January, well, by mid-January probably. And at that time, this page will have been changed, but you get the idea. Applications have to be received by February 21st. That's this year, that's how it went. And acceptances will be sent by February 27th. So by February 27th this year, and I assume will be similar next year, you would find out whether you got chosen. And if you're not chosen, you're on the wait list. And because it's such an early commitment, there are always people who last minute drop out. So if you're on the wait list, you have a chance of going if you set aside the time for that trip. It's a $50 deposit to have your spot reserved, and that has to be in by March 15th. And 3 months before the trip, you have to pay the remainder of the cost, which varies by pack station. The cheapest is the Glacier Lakes pack station, and the cost for that is about $450 to $500 for the trip. The other ones are more expensive. So this is a map of kind of central California, central eastern California. And if you look at the bottom, it shows Mount Whitney and Lone Pine. And that yellow road going up there is Highway 395. And if you take it up to Big Pine, you can take the road from Big Pine all the way up to the end to the Glacier Pack Station. And that's my favorite mule pack trip is to the Big Pine Lakes region. And it shows the North Palisade Mountain, which is 14,200 something. And the Palisades are just gorgeous. And the base camp has a wonderful view of them. Now, this lists 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pack stations in the Sierras, but none of them are any of the pack stations I've used. So there are more than 9. It doesn't show the Glacier Pack Station. It doesn't show the Bishop Pack Station, and it doesn't show the Frontier Pack Station. So those are the 3 that I've experienced. And I don't know why they're not on this map, but this just gives you an idea of the layout and how many pack stations there are. Here's another map that shows you more of California, not just eastern, shows the ocean on the west. And this actually does show more cities. It shows the town of Bishop, and again it shows Big Pine and the Palisades to the west of Big Pine. And to the east is the road that takes you to the ancient bristlecone pine forest. Okay, some of the popular destinations that the Mule Pack Trips have visited in the past are, and here's a whole big list. I've been to 3 of them. I've been to Clark Lakes, I've been to Humphrey Basin, and I've been to the Big Pine Lakes. I've been to Big Pine Lakes 7 times. So 7 of the 9 times I've gone on these trips, I've gone there because it is by far my favorite. So this is what a sample of what a loading dock looks like. This happens to be the Glacier Pack Station, or it says Glacier Pack Train, but it shows all the gear. Now, this was taken in the afternoon, And on this particular trip, the mules got back before we had hiked down. So all of our gear was sitting on the dock waiting for us when we got there. Um, but in the morning, when we drop it off, it doesn't make a very good picture because it's dark. We drop it off at 6 a.m. and get an early start hiking up to the base camp. This is what the mules look like. They carry 50 pounds on either side. They carry all of our food. They carry our tent, sleeping bags, chairs. In my case, cot, because I don't like to sleep on the ground. I sleep on a cot. And this is what it looks like when they drop off their gear. This happens to be the Big Pine Lakes drop-off point. And you can see there's a lot of duffel bags, great big duffel bags. Each participant is limited to 50 pounds, and you have to bring your own breakfast and lunch. The evening meal is provided for you, and we have a hot pot of soup every night, and we eat quite well, particularly when we have fishermen on the trip, because then we get to eat trout, and that is delicious. And you notice the metal boxes. Those are the bear boxes to keep the food secure. Bears have only been a problem once at the Big Pine Lakes base camp that we go to. But that one time they got to my bear canister, and you can see the claw marks. They were trying to open this thing up. They could smell the food in there. Well, I say they, um, because I don't know if it was a male or female bear. But you can see the scratch marks trying to get this thing open, but it held. And the boxes, the bear flipped the boxes end over end to try to pop them open. Those bears are strong because those metal boxes full of food are heavy. But fortunately, none of the lids popped off, and therefore the bear didn't come back because it was not successful. One thing we always do, and it's usually my job, is dig a sump hole because we we have a kitchen set up and we wash our hands and we wash the dish, wash vegetables, wash dishes, and all that water has to go somewhere. And so we dig this hole and dump the water in the hole, and it slowly sinks down. And it's used for the entire 5 night stay. This is what a kitchen area looks like. We work together to set up the canopy over the kitchen area, um, which is very important when it rains. And sometimes it doesn't rain, but sometimes it does. And you can see the tables set up with, and on the left you see the wash basins. And every night we would have a hot pot of soup. First 2 nights, a salad bar, and sometimes 3 nights, and then after that, quesadilla bar, and you make your own quesadilla, and then it gets cooked on the burner. And if we have fishermen, we also have trout, and we stay there 5 nights, which allows for 4 day hikes. So Humphrey Basin, that was the first non-Big Pine Lake mule pack I did. I think it may have been just my second mule pack trip. And we had to go over Paiute Pass. We used the Bishop Pack Station, mule pack station. And Paiute Pass, 11,423 feet high. That was a tough hike. And especially, even though we go up 2 days early and do a practice hike to try to get used to elevation, unless you've been really doing a lot of tough hikes. The only one in Southern California that's that high is San Gorgonio, 11,500. So that altitude took a lot out of everybody. But I'm standing there at the pass. Behind me is the terrain that we hiked up. And then I turned and had a picture taken of me looking the other way. Look at the difference. Green, not green. Not very green, pretty desolate. So this is looking into Humphreys Basin with Summit Lake in the background. The hike to the base camp was 9 miles with 2,200 feet climb from the trailhead to the pass. And then once you come down off the pass, you have this trail that goes through Humphreys Basin. It's kind of cool. The wide open space with no trees has a certain majestic look to it. And there are stream crossings to do. Um, this is actually the first day hike. Only three of us felt like doing a day hike because most people were wiped out after going over Paiute Pass, but I was one of the three that did, and we had several stream crossings. We were going to Honeymoon Lakes, and I don't like stream crossings, but this one wasn't particularly hard because it wasn't one log, there were two logs, so I can have a foot on each one. I got a beautiful picture of this buck. You can see the velvet antlers. They're still growing. They haven't solidified yet. I was not standing close. This was done with a very good zoom. I had a Canon camera. I wasn't using my cell phone. I had a real optical zoom, and I was able to get a nice shot of him. This is Lower Honeymoon Lake. It was beautiful and well worth the effort. And all these areas, you can see the peaks in the background with snowfields. 100, 200 years ago, there was a glacier up there. But the glaciers are largely gone in the Sierras. But several hundred years ago, there were a lot of them. This is one of the day hikes. We went to Desolation Lake. I don't have a picture of that, but behind us is Lower Desolation Lake. There's just this very low, scrubby, uh, not very greenery, plant life. It's pretty desolate. It rained almost every day. In fact, I think it did rain every day. But we always got a day hike in. And then sometimes we had to eat under the canopy of the kitchen because it was raining, or prepare the food while it was raining. But we had this one beautiful rainbow. And on another day hike, we walked by this pond that was perfectly still. And I love taking photos of reflections in water. And every night I tell stories on these mule pack trips. I'm a storyteller. And this was the site that I told the stories after dinner on this trip. Okay, the other trip I went on, which was actually 2020, this is the Clark Lakes Mule Pack trip. And this shows a picture of our warm-up hike. And we hiked by Saddleback Lake and up above Saddleback Lake. And I think behind me down there is Saddleback Lake. And the warm-up hikes are really good for getting you in shape for the real hike because it's always hard to get up to the base camp. It's always pretty high. We started at the Frontier Mule Pack Station by Silver Lake, which is right next to June Lake, and hiked up the Rush Creek Trail about 8 miles, 2,750 feet, elevation gain up to about a little over 10,000 feet to get to our campsite at Clark Lakes. Carson Peak is in the background, and one of our day hikes was to the top of Carson Peak from the other side. This is turning around, looking back down at Silver Lake where we started. And we hiked by Agnew Lake, one of 3 dammed lakes that provide electricity for Southern California Edison. I was surprised to learn that Southern California Edison gets electricity from way up in the Sierras in this area. We did a day hike to Thousand Island Lake, and you can see it way off in the distance. But this was a beautiful shot of the area. The Sierras are so beautiful. The backcountry is just gorgeous. And that's what's great about the mule pack trips. Even if, if you don't like carrying the weight and backpacking, you can still experience the backcountry. We had a beautiful sunset not far from our base camp. And the first day hike, we hiked up to Agnew Pass, going past Summit Lake. This is the view from Agnew Pass. Then we hiked down to Thousand Island Lake. And here I am sitting at Thousand Island Lake. And you can't see the islands from here very well, but I have another picture where we were up above the lake, and then you can see the islands. Second day, we hiked to the top of Carson Peak, 10,912 feet elevation. This photo was taken near the beginning of the hike and shows Ritter and Banner peaks in the distance. And it was gorgeous, beautiful day. And I love it when there are some clouds. It adds texture to the photos. And here I am at the top of Carson Peak, which is, I believe, it's about 11,000 feet. And that's Banner and Ritter in the background and Thousand Island Lake. And if you look real close, you can see little dots on the lake. Those are the islands. Here we are on another day hike where we were up above Thousand Island Lake, but closer to it. And there you can see lots and lots of islands. I don't think there are 1,000, but there may be 100. Okay. Big Pine Lakes Mule Pack Trip. This is my favorite. I've done it 7 times, and I never get tired because it's just the most beautiful campsite I have ever experienced. And I love the day hikes, although the day hikes were quite good at the Clark Lakes, but there were no views from our campsite at Clark Lakes. And I'm an early riser and I get up early and I love the views. So this is a really good map to show you the layout. On the right, you see Glacier Lodge. Most of us spent 2 nights in Glacier Lodge. Cost $244 for the 2 nights. It was $440 for the mule pack trip. Now, I need to say something. I showed you the screenshot of the Angeles chapter website for the mule pack section. I have never been on a Sierra Club hike here. I go on private hikes led by Kathy Viola, who used to be an Outings leader in San Gorgonio chapter, and she also used to be a mule pack leader in Angeles chapter. So she was trained by Angeles chapter to lead mule pack trips and did that for about 4 or 5 years, I believe, and stopped doing it in 2020 when COVID hit. Of course, Sierra Club shut down all hikes in 2020 and 2021. And she started doing the private trips for her friends because her friends were saying, we can't get into the Sierra Club mule pack trips. Why don't you do one for us? And so she started doing it and continues to do that. So we spent 2 nights in Glacier Lodge. Or some people, there's a campground, and that saves money. The campground's probably like what? Maybe $20 per night instead of $122 per night. But it's much more convenient to be and comfortable, as far as I'm concerned, to be sleeping in a bed rather than in a campsite. And it's easier to get going at early in the morning because you got to be at the pack station by 6 a.m. to drop off your stuff. And our practice hike is the South Fork Big Pine Creek, which appropriately goes south on the map. That's our practice hike. And then after the second night in the Glacier Lodge, we went north on the North Fork Big Pine Creek Trail. And the first lake we come to is called First Lake. And then Second Lake, Third Lake, Fourth Lake, Fifth Lake, Sixth Lake, Seventh Lake, those are all glacier lakes. Currently, only the first, second, third lakes are being fed by glaciers, by the Thunderbolt Glacier and mostly by the Palisade Glacier. Uh, the other ones were fed by glaciers, but those glaciers are long gone and probably have been gone over 100 years. So they no longer have the distinct glacial coloring that first, second, and third lake have still. And then Summit Lake and Black Lake, which are almost in the middle and up on the northern part of the map, they never were glacier lakes. Summit Lake is in a bowl, and it collects snow and it melts, and I'm sure the bottom of the lake is solid granite, so it pools up, and then there's a little outlet stream from Summit Lake goes down to Black Lake that feeds Black Lake as well. And so they definitely don't have the coloring of a glacier lake. Fifth Lake has a little bit of the coloring left, but it's been a while since it's been fed by a glacier. And then going south from after Third Lake, there is a trail that goes southwest to Sam Mac Meadow. And it also shows Sam Mac Lake, which is up above the meadow. And then you also see a trail off of Sam Mac Meadow that sort of ends into nothing. That trail goes, it does end, but then there's a bunch of boulders that you can climb over to get to a viewpoint of the Palisade Glacier. And that's a hike that we do. So the hike up to the base camp is about 8 miles and 3,000 feet elevation climb. On the way, we always stop at Lon Chaney's cabin. Kathy's giving us instructions on what to expect on the rest of the hike and what to do when we arrive at our campsite. And Lon Chaney's cabin is a historical landmark. They allowed it to stay when the John Muir Wilderness was formed. There was a resort hotel higher up above Fourth Lake. They tore that down. There used to be a hydroelectric dam on Second Lake that gave power to that resort. They tore that down because it was going to be a wilderness area, but they decided to keep Lon Chaney's cabin. Lots of beautiful flowers along the way. And this is what First Lake looks like. And notice the greenish color. It's from the minerals being scraped off the rocks by the glaciers. This is Second Lake and Third Lake and Fourth Lake. And we go above Fourth Lake is where our base camp is. And we always go there. This is where the resort used to be. So it's a nice flat area. There are 15 of us. And some couples go, so they share a tent, or sometimes two friends will share a tent. But a lot of us are just in a tent by ourselves. So we need a lot of area to set up all these tents. And this is the spectacular view that I get to see every day from this base camp. Right in the middle is the Palisade Glacier, and there's about 14,000-foot peaks there. Mount Sill, North Palisade, and Thunderbolt are all over 14,000 feet. And it's the main reason I love this mule pack trip is because of the view from the camp. Now this shows campers putting away their clean eating gear next to the bear boxes. And in the morning, when I get up, and I'm the first one up, I get to see the alpine glow on the mountains. And it's just gorgeous. And then and you can see the moon is still in the sky here. That's the moon. And as the sun comes up, the coloring changes. And I sit in my little camp chair eating my breakfast, watching this light show take place in front of me. It's just gorgeous. There's the moon again. So this is up above um, Fourth Lake. I believe this is sunset because the sun is hitting the mountain peaks from the west. Every night after dinner, there's a overlook up above Fourth Lake. Our base camp is, I think it's about 300 feet above Fourth Lake, and we hike down to this overlook, which is maybe 150 feet above the lake, and beautiful views of the changing lighting as the sun sets. Now, this is in the morning after the sun is up and the water is still. If it's windy, you don't get a good reflection, but if there's no wind, it's like a mirror, and I just love it. So our first day hike is almost always to an overlook above Sixth Lake, which is 11,088. By the way, our base camp is 10,850. And we don't actually go down to the banks of Sixth Lake, but we do go down to the banks of Seventh Lake, which is up above it. And my map doesn't show the elevation of Seventh Lake, but it's more than 11,088, but not much more. I would guess it's probably 11,120 or 30 or something like that. But the map I have doesn't show me the elevation. So the second day hike is up to Sam Mac Meadow, and some people only go that far. Some people go beyond up towards the Palisade Glacier. And we have to cross the stream that goes through the meadow. And this is looking back down at the meadow. We're on a trail. It's a pretty good trail. Notice the flowers off to the left along the rocks. Lots of columbine. Here shows columbine and mountain asters. And there's red and yellow columbine. The columbine's beautiful. Some years there's snow next to the trail. The first time I did this hike, there was a lot of snow. And then eventually the trail ends and it's just scrambling over rocks and boulders to get up to 12,300 feet and the view of the glacier. That's the Palisade Glacier. You can see where it's calving, and there's like a small lake or a large pond of melted water. Melted ice, I mean. Water doesn't melt. And I believe, looking at it, this is the same place, but the lighting's better in this one. And it shows more of the glacier. Now, I used to think that the edge of the glacier that goes down to the water, I used to think that was like maybe 10 or 15 feet, a wall of 10 or 15 feet of ice, until 2 years ago, while we were up there, some people hiked down to the water at the base of the glacier, and they were ants. We could barely see them, which made me realize that probably the face of that glacier is more like 40 feet of solid ice. This is a different year. Notice, well, let's go back here. Notice how high the snow goes up on the mountains and not so much here. And it's covered with dirt and rocks, which is not good because if it's all white, it reflects the heat of the sun. It's got dirt on top of it that kind of can absorb the heat and make the glacier melt faster. Palisade Glacier is the largest glacier in the Sierra Nevadas. It's also the southernmost glacier in North America. This is my favorite flowers. And the common name is white heather. Uh, and I have a quote here from John Muir. Here too I met Cassiope, growing in fringes among the battered rocks. No evangel among all the mountain plants speaks nature's love more plainly than Cassiope, common name white heather. So this is on the way back down. We have a great view of first, second, and third lake with that characteristic glacier color, glacier melt color. I zoomed in to see Fourth Lake where, we're staying up above. And right in the middle, or a little to the left of the middle, you see uh, some rocks. That's where we sit to get the good views of the lake at sunrise and sunset up above Fourth Lake. Now, this last summer, we had a near tragedy. What you're looking at is a CHP helicopter taking off with one of our campers. He went on the hike to the Palisade Glacier. He didn't make it to the top. He only made it to 12,000. And that night at 11:30 at night, his heart started racing. He was having an AFib episode, and he was taking medication for AFib, but he hadn't had any episodes in 5 years. Fortunately, we had a doctor on the trip, and also fortunately, someone brought one of those little things you stick on your forefinger to measure your oxygen level, and it gives a heart rate. Well, the heart rate was very useful for the doctor, who monitored him for about an hour and then decided it was a medical emergency and we needed to get him to an emergency room, because the longer the heart has irregular heartbeats, the more possibility for blood clots and possible stroke. So at 7 in the morning, the helicopter finally came and took him to the emergency room at the Bishop Hospital. They were able to give him electric shock therapy to stabilize his heartbeat, and he was released at noon. And his wife and a friend who had all come up in the same vehicle, the friend hiked out with the wife down to the car, and they drove to Bishop, and then the three of them drove home from there. And he was fine. No lasting effects. But it was a little bit scary. And the leader, Kathy, always rents a satellite phone, which was used to contact the emergency services and get a helicopter, which is not real easy because not all helicopters and pilots are able to go above 12,000 feet and then, land at just under 11,000. It takes a skill and somebody with experience. But that kind of thing, is always a possibility. That's why it's good to have a satellite phone. The third day hike, this shows a picture passing a pond adjacent to Fourth Lake. No wind, beautiful reflection. I just love the reflections. And we were hiking to Black Lake, and this is what Black Lake looks like. You can't see the Palisade Glacier. You actually, in the middle of the screen, can see the Thunderbolt Glacier. And off to the left, maybe you can see a little tip of the Palisade Glacier, but it's mostly hidden by the trees. Notice Black Lake, it's clear. You can see the rocks. There's not that glacial mineral color to it. Beautiful lake, a good place to fish. And one of the people that's been on several mule pack trips to Big Pine Lakes, he and his family were up camping at Black Lake using the services of the Glacier Pack Station. It was him and his wife, his son and daughter-in-law and their two kids. So there were six of them that camped out here. And Bob is a great fisherman. I'm sure he fed them well because there's pretty good fishing here. And you can see the elevation 10,649. After lunch, because that Black Lake is very close, after lunch, we went to an overlook of Fifth Lake, which is 10,787 feet high. And notice Fifth Lake is not clear. It still has some of that glacier lake look to it, even though it no longer has glaciers melting into it. Like I said, they've probably been gone for over 100 years. Fourth and last day hike, Sam Mack Meadow, on the way to Sam Mack Lake. Now, I mentioned the hike to see the Palisade Glacier. The last part was scrambling over boulders, but the first part from the meadow, most of the way, was a good trail. There's no trail to Sam Mack Lake. It exists beyond the ridge that you're looking at. The meadow takes the water melting off those snow fields. And the first time I did Sam Mack Lake, we hiked to the end of the meadow. We were looking towards the end, and we just scrambled up the side off to the right. And it was a very difficult hike for me because I'm a hiker, not a mountain climber. And the other two people that were with me were experienced mountaineers. So I said once we got up there, I don't want to go back that way. And we found a better route, going up the ridge instead of scrambling up the side. But it's still a difficult hike. There's no trail, it's cross country. You have a lot of boulders to climb over, but it's doable. This is the last part of the hike up to Sam Mack Lake. And as you can see, it's just a boulder field. And you got to make your way through that carefully. This particular year, there was a big snow field. This year, there was nothing. There was no snow there at all. It just depends on the year. And you get up to the ridge and then look down, and there's the beautiful lake. And it's, like 50 feet down from the ridge, you are at the lake itself, elevation 11,798 feet. And it is a pristine lake. It actually has fish in it. This year, there were 4 young people who were fishing, and the fish obviously were not used to this because within 30 seconds, every time they threw their line in, within 30 seconds they had a bite, and they were doing catch and release, and we're having a gay old time. Here's me standing by Sam Mack Lake. Directly behind me is a Thunderbolt Glacier. Off to the left, you can only see part of the Palisade Glacier. Here's one of the hikers that went with me, and I believe this is the same year. If I look at the snow patterns, which I have, but I like this picture better because it's further back and you get to see more of the lake, and you can see more of the Palisade Glacier now off to the left. And this photo is from this year. Notice not as much snow down by the lake, but still beautiful. The sky was not quite as clear blue, but it's well worth the hike as far as I'm concerned. And I'm very thankful I can still do this. Going down, you have this spectacular view. You have to be careful, of course, but you have this spectacular view of Sam Mack Meadow below, and off in the distance, the mountain ranges. 2 different years. This one, there were patches of snow to deal with. This one was this year, and there was nothing, no snow at all. And then as we got lower down, you can see the meadow better. And when we got back, we put on our swimming suits and jumped into Summit Lake. This is one of the lakes that's never been glacier fed, and it's maybe a few degrees warmer than the other lakes, because the snow is all melted. It's no longer getting fresh snow melt. Whereas first, second, and third lakes, they're still getting water every day from the glacier, so that water's freezing. Um, it's still cold and quite invigorating, and it's nice to jump into Summit Lake, and the view is wonderful. There's straight in front of us, there's the Palisade Glacier right in the middle, and the Thunderbolt off to the right. Summit Lake is 10,900 feet, and I love this picture. The water was clear, there was no wind, and the reflection, there were a lot of clouds, and it just made for a wonderful picture. It's one of my favorite pictures. And I hope you can get a feel for what it's like. Being there in person, it's better. What these photos do is they remind me of the feeling I had when I was there. Because when you're there, it is so awesome. It takes your breath away. And there is the this is actually a different address than was on the first slide, but it's it takes you to the same site. It takes you to the Angeles chapter Mule Pack section website, and that's where you'll get the information. If you check probably about mid to late January, they will have made reservations with the Mule Pack stations they're going to be using next summer, and they'll have all the information up there, and you pick which one looks good to you and hope your name gets chosen. And if not, hopefully you're near the top of the waiting list. And at this point, I can't see my mouse, which is not good. See if I can stop the share. Ah, I did it. Stop the share. So I'm going to look. Oh, shoot. I need to. Carla, can you see, are there any questions in the chat section? I'm going to remove the spotlight.
Okay, let me look here. I see one question. I know I see one question, one comment. Where was the base camp on one of the pictures that you had? I believe you had a picture of the base camp.
Yeah, with the kitchen.
I I'm not exactly sure, but if that's the only one you had with the base camp, that's probably it.
Yeah, the only one, actually, the only base camp I showed was with the Big Pine Lakes base camp, because that is what makes that trip so wonderful, because the base camp is in such a great spot for views. And so that was the Big Pine Lakes base camp. I don't think I showed pictures from the other two.
Okay, and Lori just commented that your photos are gorgeous. Great presentation. Nordy wanted to know, was the base camp by the fourth lake?
It was above the fourth lake. Yeah, so you hike past the fourth lake, and when you get up above fourth lake, then there is let me put me back on spotlight here. When you get up above Fourth Lake, there is a trail that goes off to the side that will take you over to Black Lake, and that trail goes right through our base camp. So we don't set up any tents on the trail, but we surround the trail, uh, and that's where we camp.
Okay, and we're just another comment from Faith. Great pictures and presentation. Thanks. And Nordy says, great info. Thank you. So it sounds like you answered Nordy's questions. And I just want to say, John, presentation was absolutely gorgeous. I love your pictures. So inspirational. Makes me want to go out on a mule camp here pretty soon.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and
I love the mule pack trips. I never really I did some backpacking, but I never really enjoyed hiking with a backpack on my back. So And as I've gotten older, it's just the only way for me to go at this point.
Yeah, I'm totally same way. I'm getting to the point where, I enjoyed backpacking when I was younger, but now I think it would be kind of nice for a mule to be carrying all my equipment.
Yeah.
And I
And
love the idea of all these group meals too.
yeah,
Having your meals like prepared for you. That's just incredible. That's awesome.
now it's they aren't prepared for you necessarily. Everybody pitches in the kitchen. All the soups have fresh chopped up vegetables, and everybody, not everybody, but every night a group of like 4 or 5 people will help Kathy make the soup by chopping up the vegetables and putting out stuff. We have a happy hour too. I didn't mention that. There's a happy hour with snacks that you can eat. And those who like wine, there's lots of wine to drink as well. But it's a communal thing. Everybody has to pitch in for getting the water from the water source. And the Big Pine Lakes has a nice, fast flowing stream. So it's pretty clean water. I prefer that than scooping water out of a lake where the water's just sitting there, which is what Clark Lakes was when we were there. Is during the drought, and there were no running stream, just kind of semi-stagnant lake water. But Kathy brings very high quality water filters, hangs them from the tree, and you can fill up your water bottles uh, with filtered water, and that's what's used for cooking as well. And but everybody has to pitch in. It's a lot of work to haul the water up from the stream to the camp, and it's work to prepare the vegetables and stuff for the meals, and wash the dishes. Um, but everybody chips in, and it's all it's good to have that communal spirit, and it really develops group cohesiveness, I think.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Faith just commented that years ago she went on a horse, she took horses out on some of the trails you're mentioning with mules
Yeah.
for a few weeks. She said they had a great time. They didn't do a whole lot of hiking, mostly horseback riding. So when you're out there, do you see a lot of those groups doing the horseback riding with the mules?
No, but I mentioned my friend Bob and his family, 6 of them, uh, went to Black Lake just this summer, the week before we were there. And Bob's wife rode a horse up with the mules up to the base
Mm,
camp. She rode the horse up. So that's an option if you're if because it's a tough hike to get up there. Black Lake's even further than Fourth Lake, so it's probably closer to 9 miles, and it's a little bit higher too. So yeah, it's possible to pay to ride a horse as well. But no, I don't see people just riding around on horses. We see a lot of backpackers up there. But it's hard to get a permit because they limit the number of people into the wilderness area. And one of the nice things about arranging through the mule pack station, they get the permits for you. And so that's pretty cool. You don't have to hassle with that.
yeah, maybe back in the days it was more popular to take a horse. Probably not as many people are doing that nowadays.
Well, it costs money.
Yeah, yeah, it probably is quite expensive. Yeah, is there any other questions or any other comments that people want to make? I think maybe we can come off mic at this point and
Yeah, stop the recording.
ask your questions.